Hello, my name is Frank Maher, and today I am examining the state of New York's assembled workers' compensation claims from the year 2000 to 2015. The Workers' Compensation Board administers and regulates benefits for volunteer firefighters, volunteer ambulance, volunteer civil defense workers, as well as all other workers' compensation and disability benefits. They process and adjudicate claims and ensure employer compliance with the requirement to maintain appropriate insurance coverage. And they also regulate the various stakeholders, including self-insured employers, medical providers, third-party administrators, insurance carriers, and legal representatives. Claims are assembled when an injured worker loses more than 1 week of work due to an injury, has a serious injury that may result in permanent disability, or has an injury that is disputed by an insurance carrier or an employer. The complete data set has 1,048,575 records with 51 attributes. Some attributes are redundant. 48% of the records contained no injury data, and others had barely any data at all. Once paring down this data, I utilized roughly 10% of what was remaining, which equaled out to 50,000 records. Of the 51 attributes, I narrowed it down to the most promising 12, which were gender, age, date of the injury, whether the employee was permanently disabled, what part of the body was injured, the nature of the injury, what caused the injury, what type of event happened for the injury, whether the employee retained an attorney or not, whether it was an accident or an occupational disease, and what county the employee worked in. Data manipulation. I manually updated age into groups. So I took somebody that was 34 years old and put them into a 31 to 40 age bracket, etc. for other ages as well. I grouped each injury date into a time of the year. So if somebody was injured on January 12th, 2009, they would be grouped under winter. Changed disability to either a yes or no, instead of having either a date value or a missing value. And there were multiple injury columns which I merged into 2 columns. I did my testing in the WECA environment. I used J48 decision trees with a confidence factor of 0.1 and a minimum number of instances at 2,000. I used the simple k-means method with default parameter of 2 clusters and k nearest neighbor with a k equals 5 value. Doing decision trees, permanent disability or PPD had the lowest error rate of all of the attributes, coming in at 20.984%. The strongest predictors all had hired an attorney. If there was an ear injury and they had hired an attorney, 96% of the time there was a correlation that they would go out on disability. Body systems, 95% would not go out on disability, and abdomen, 95% they would not go out on disability. Whether an employee hired an attorney or representative was the next lowest error rate at 28.308%. If they went out on disability, 84% hired an attorney. If they injured their abdomen, they would not hire an attorney 80% of the time. And back spine injury that could not be traced to a single instance, they did hire an attorney 80% of the time. Gender was the third lowest error rate at 31.966%. All of the predictors related to a male employee and the cause of the injury. So a loud noise, 95.7% of the time it would be a male. A male will be caught in or crushed on materials 94.1% of the time compared to females. And instance of fire, 93.3% would be male. Simple k-means, the entire data set broke out as 41 to 50, the biggest predictor, happening in the winter, did not go out on disability, injury was to multiple body parts, trauma was to muscles and joints, the employees were injured on flat surfaces, they fell on the same level, they were male, and did hire an attorney. First cluster broke out to 32,096 records. Most stayed the same, except the age moved to 51 to 60 for the age group, and spring was the time of the year. The second cluster of 17,904 records, the age again was 41 to 50. Injuries happened more often in the summer, and they were back and spine injuries that were caused by overexertion. Using KNN, K nearest neighbors, the lowest error rate again came out for disability at 23.72%. The next lowest error rate came out as attorney representative, 28.474%, and the third lowest was gender at 32.4%. In conclusion, the disability factor was the most strongest attribute in determining predictions for all the other records. Attorney representative was also the next one. Those can both be correlated as being very important instances that aren't too common. Somebody's going out on disability, it's a very big issue in their life. And if somebody has to hire an attorney, it means there's something major going on, very important. Surprisingly, age was a small factor. It was expected that age would be more influential when it came to identifying records, but in fact it was one of the smallest at over 70% error rate when running the processes. This data set was very large and hard to manipulate, and as you can see, a lot of the visuals came out hard to read because of that. But in general, it was a very good insight into injuries and how they are tracked. Thank you.